Hello friends, it's me, Tiffany, from Apricity Lane. Today we'll be reading The Three Little Pigs, as adapted by me, Tiffany. Once upon a time, a very long time ago, 3 little pigs grew up on a rather lovely farm. They were fat and happy little piglets, pink and playful as most little piglets are. Their lives were perfect, and they were content to roll in the mud and snack on the apples that fell from the tree. One day, however, their mother came out to them and said, "My darling little piglets, you are all grown now, and you must go find your way in the world. Remember to always be wise, for the world is not always a safe place." The little pigs, of course, did not want to be grown-ups and to make their way in the world. But the time had come, and so they packed up their bags with apples, bread, and cheese, and took off down the long dirt road away from the farmhouse and out into the world. Their mother had been right when she said the world was not always a safe place. In fact, at the end of the road, just behind a bush, a wolf was taking a lazy afternoon nap. He was awoken from his slumber when he heard the little pigs talking to each other as they walked down the road. He peeked his wolf head up over the top of the bush and saw the fat and happy little piglets walking down the road with their bags, and knew that he could make a very good supper out of them. He smiled a big, sharp-toothed grin and started about his plan. It wasn't long after the little piglets split up to go their separate ways that the first little pig found a man selling straw. "What is that you're selling?" asked the first little pig. "This is straw," replied the man. "Is straw any good for making houses?" The little pig was very curious, since he had never built a house before. "Oh, sure," said the man. "It is very inexpensive, and you can build your house quickly. In fact, you'll be sleeping in your new bed this very evening." The pig was very excited to hear this, and he snorted happily as he gave the man his money and walked down the road with his wagon full of straw. It turned out that the man was right. The little pig worked and worked until his house was built of straw. He had straw walls, a straw bed, and even a straw table that he could sit at to eat his apples. It was a splendid little straw house, and as he enjoyed his supper, he was interrupted by a knock on his straw door. The little pig did not know who could be knocking at his door, and so he walked carefully up to it and called out, "Who's there?" Little pig, let me come in." Through the door, the pig could hear the gravelly voice of a very big-sounding wolf. Now, the pig did not know much about the world, but he did know that he should not open the door for a big, scary wolf. "No, Mr. Wolf, you cannot come in," said the little pig. "Then I will blow the house down and let myself in," the wolf shouted. The wolf blew and blew and blew, and the house began to shake and shake and shake. Straw may be very good for making a house quickly, but it was not very good for keeping out a big wolf. The house rocked and squeaked and fell over on top of the little pig. Luckily, the little pig was fast, and he ran and ran and ran as fast as his little piggy legs could carry him until he got away from that big, scary wolf. Now, while the first little pig was on his adventure, the second little pig was about to have one of his own. The second little pig had a plan. He was going to build a house out of wood, and so he brought his trusty axe and found a nice wooded place where he could build his home. There was only one problem with the second little pig's plan. Chopping down trees to make lumber for a home is hard work. After only chopping down one tree, he was exhausted, and he scarcely had enough wood to get started. But the second little pig noticed something. "The ground is covered in sticks," he said to himself. "That's made of the same thing as the trees I'm chopping, and they're already on the ground. I will make my house out of them instead." And so the second little pig built himself a quaint little house made of sticks. Soon the house was complete, with comfortable stick chairs for guests. As soon as the little pig sat in a chair to enjoy his work well done, he heard a noise in the distance. He recognized the sound right away. It was his brother, the first little pig. He was squealing for help. The second little pig opened the door and let his brother inside. The first little pig was so out of breath from running that he could not tell the second little pig about the danger headed their way. Then came a knock at the door. Little pig, let me come in." As soon as the first little pig heard the voice of the wolf, he hid under one of the comfortable stick chairs. The second little pig knew better than to let a big wolf into his house. And so he said, "No, Mr. Wolf, you cannot come in." "Then I will blow the house down and let myself in." The wolf was very angry indeed, because he had been chasing the first little pig all the way to his brother's house, and he was quite hungry. So he sucked in a big, great breath of air and started to blow on the house. Sticks may be very good at making campfires and for building comfortable chairs, but they are not very good for making houses. The first and second little pigs hid under the chairs as the house started to groan and creak. The wolf blew, and the house started to shudder and shake until finally it fell right over. As soon as the house fell down, the two little pigs jumped up and ran as fast as their little piggy legs would carry them, and the wolf was not far behind. The third little pig had a plan for his home, and so he went to town and found a brick seller. The bricks were expensive and would take some hard work, but he knew how strong bricks could really be. The third little pig pulled his wagon to a clearing and began to carefully lay his bricks, one by one. The job was very difficult, and it took a long, long time. But the little pig eventually finished his strong brick house. The third little pig was inside building his new brick kitchen when suddenly he heard a familiar sound. It was the sound of his brothers, the first little pig and the second little pig, squealing for help. He opened the door for them, and they came running in, and they were too out of breath to tell him what had happened. But the big scary wolf was right behind them and began to knock on the door. Little pig, let me come in." Of course, the first little pig and the second little pig were terrified when they heard the voice of the big wolf, so they ran and hid from him. But the third little pig was not worried at all. "No, Mr. Wolf, you cannot come in." "Then I will blow the house down and let myself in." At this point, the wolf was very, very mad. He had been chasing pigs all day, and he was very hungry. So he sucked in a great big breath and started to blow on the house. But nothing happened. The house didn't creak or groan or shudder. So the wolf blew harder, but still nothing happened. The house made of bricks was so strong that the first little pig and the second little pig came out of hiding and danced with their brother, knowing they were safe from the wolf. This made the wolf even more angry, and he blew harder and harder and more until he blew so hard that he flew up, up, up into the sky and was never heard from again. Needless to say, the first little pig and the second little pig built brick houses right next door to their brother, and they all lived happily ever after. The end.